Michael Kim has been on an absolute tear on the PGA Tour. The lineage of Michael Kim, for those of you who may not be familiar or feel like you're just getting to know him, is most impressive indeed. He's a member of that blockbuster 2011 high school class that included Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and Daniel Berger and Emiliano Grillo and Patrick Rogers, Ollie Snyder-Jans, Denny McCarthy, amongst. He went to the University of California. He was teammates there with Max Homa. He won the 2013 Haskins Award and the Nicklaus Award. He was a member of the 2013 Palmer and Walker Cup teams, both of which the United States won. At the 2013 U.S. Open, he finished tied for 17th as an amateur. He turned professional in 2013, not too long after, respectively. He won the John Deere Classic. And he's joining us right now. Michael, thank you very much, first of all, for joining us. It is great to have your company, and we really appreciate you taking the time. When you hear me, and I just touched on a few of your accolades, when you hear me touch on what you did as an amateur, how do you look back on that phase of your life and that time of your career? Because you had head-shaking levels of success.
Yeah, a lot of it came within a couple year stretch, especially in 2013. I had a decent freshman year, but it wasn't anything crazy spectacular, especially if you compare it to the guys like Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and all those guys. But that 2013, something just really clicked for me, and I was able to go on a pretty nice run, capping with the U.S. Open and the Walker Cup.
Tell me a little bit about your background in golf. How were you introduced to it? At what point did you decide, no, this is it for me. This is what I want to stay in. This is the career I want to have.
You know, my family immigrated over here in year 2000, and really I started maybe a few months after that. My dad just thought it'd be a cool hobby for our family to get into. And no one in our family had plans of me turning pro or doing this as a real job until, honestly, that 2013 season where I played well, and I think it really wasn't until after the US Open where I felt like, wow, I really might have an opportunity to do this as a living and turn pro. You know, Even when I was in college, I don't think many guys were turning pro early. They were going to school for 4 or 5 years and turning pro after. But I felt like I had a good opportunity and decided to turn pro then.
When when you decided to make the transition from amateur golf, where, as we noted and you commented on, you had such success, what were your early expectations, if you will, of being a professional? Did you, and you tell me if this is the correct terminology or if you'd even use this, but did you expect that amongst the professional ranks it would come as easy to you as it did as an amateur?
Definitely didn't think it was going to be very easy. When I turned pro, I did Q school as an AM and turned pro right after. And, I wasn't playing as well as I had been that 2013 year, but through Q school, I felt like I had decent enough status to where, I felt like I really just don't want to go through Q school ever again. And I felt like I had decent enough status. Um, Even at that point, I was trying to get back to how I was playing in 2013, and luckily through some exemptions and I got some starts early to get my feet wet, and I was able to figure out my game as the weeks went along, and I finished off 2014 pretty well, and I was ready to go 2015 when I got my PJ Tour card through what was then the Web.com tour.
If Michael Kim now at 31 years old could go back and give advice to that fresh-faced Michael Kim that was just starting his pathway as a touring professional. What advice would you give to that young man?
Oh man, do we have an hour? Because I think for one is I think I would try to take fitness way more routine as a routine. I was pretty good doing it in the off season. I struggled a lot trying to keep up with it in season, especially on that web.com Corn Ferry Tour season. You play 10, 11 weeks in a row sometimes, and it can get pretty difficult to maintain that. I would probably try and start speed training earlier, um, and probably pick up a couple books along the way that has helped me with my PGA Tour journey, and just get ready and get mentally prepared for a roller coaster ride.
That roller coaster ride, I assume what you're referring to is pressure, expectations, emotions associated with the same. Was there a point, maybe it was initially walking through that path, walking through that doorway, did you feel pressure, and did you in any way succumb to that pressure in terms of what you were trying to accomplish?
Um, I do think there was a part of me that, when I turned pro, like you mentioned, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, all these guys were having such tremendous success early on that, you know, I really felt like I could play with those guys, and I wanted to have, as much success as they did. And, there was certain pressures along with that, but also it made me work even harder than I had before. So there's always, it's a bit of a there's positives and negatives to it all. And honestly, I don't know what it would have been like if they weren't there, and I might not be here right now on tour if it wasn't for them and my peers pushing me along.
Was there some element of that's almost a cliche to say now that you looked at those players and said, I used to compete against those guys and beat them, and if they can be accomplishing what they are, then I can too?
For sure, for sure. You know, Jordan and Justin, they had been the best golfers since 9 or 10 years old, or even if younger than that. Like they were they were world beaters back then. I remember Jordan competed at the Byron Nelson when he was in high school, maybe like 16 or 17, and he I think he finished like top 20, and he'd been really a top class player since he was a kid. But even like Xander Schauffele, who I grew up in San Diego, I mean, we've known each other since we were 9 years old. I've known his dad since that time. And he was on the a bit of on the other side where he was a really nice player, but he wasn't no no one projected him to be, you know, a two-time major champion as he is right now. And he's probably what number two or three player in the world right now. So and even seeing his success, and it just showed me that there's not one way to do it. And I feel like I am certainly starting to reach my potential and play to my abilities.
I have so much stuff that I want to run through with you, Michael. I will touch on this tidbit because you brought up the prospect of distance. You're averaging this year 305 yards off the tee, right? Formidable. That is 87th on the PGA Tour right now, which is absolutely remarkable. So I guess the question there would be, how has distance and your relative place within it changed since you came out on tour?
Yeah, I may be 87th, but when I first got on tour, I was way back in the line. I was probably, I don't know the exact stats, but I was probably like 120, 130th. I was for sure below average. And, through that fitness and speed training that I was talking about, I'm able to, say like I'm right at average or just above average. And it's a huge part of the game. I'm a big basketball fan, and I kind of equate it to how the 3-point game, the 3-point shot has changed basketball. And it's been a very similar concept where you really, if you want to survive on tour, you need to hit a certain distance, or you have to the other parts of your game has to be just really, really special. And it's just the distance is just a huge part of the PGA Tour now.
Yeah, that's to your point, Michael. In 2014, your statistical average for distance off the tee was 270 yards. So full credit that you have added a tremendous amount as you've gone along.
Spine slightly up and forward, thumbs down, left tilt go. That's ready. Thumbs down, spine forward, left tilt go. Yes.
So we're hearing the recipe from Joe Mayo working with Michael Kim. Michael is with us right now. Michael, could you talk to us about what we're seeing here, what you guys are working on, why were you working on it, and how the results been coming along?
Yeah, I decided to take a chipping lesson at Waste Management on Tuesday, after hearing some of his stuff on the No Laying Up podcast, and we were trying to steepen the path a little bit. We did that mostly through setup, where my left shoulder feels a bit lower than my right shoulder. I'm keeping my head on my left side. And if you kind of see the down the line video where we have that black alignment stick kind of up, I'm really just trying to make sure my club doesn't get too far inside, too shallow. Trying to keep it on a bit more of a vertical path, and that helps me get a little better contact. Out of the rough, it's much better because I'm not hitting as much grass behind it. Stuff like that, and I'm also getting a little bit more spin off of it. But more than anything, it's all about kind of ball first contact. And when you're coming from a bit of a steeper angle, I don't have to worry as much about the grass behind it, and I get a much more predictable outcome, and it's been helping my short game a ton. I've always been a decent to just slightly above average chipper, but over the last few weeks, I've been gaining a lot of strokes from around the greens, which has been a lot of help over this past few weeks.
I guess that goes to the question of what's been the magic? What have you changed that's flipped the switch so definitively with the way that you're playing right now?
Uh, like many times, it's a lot of different things kind of coming together at once. Last year, I had a bit of an up and down season, where if my driver was really good, my chipping and putting maybe wasn't, and if my chipping and putting was good, my driver and iron game weren't as good. This year, I've been able to kind of put it all together at the same tournament, especially at the Waste Management. Um, Working with Joe on that Tuesday was really helpful, getting my chipping figured out. And I felt like I'd been driving it pretty good over the start of the season, just hadn't really shown up as much. But at Waste Management, it all showed up, and I was able to have a great week. And when you have a great start to the year like I did, I think it just frees you up even more. And I was able to kind of keep it going at the Genesis and also at the Mexico Open.
Yeah, it's incredible. Take a look at this chart that we put together, Michael, that illustrates your performance from just before you turn professional to when you turn professional. And you can see that there were the years from 2018, 2019, revenue 17,258, then 132,000, then 183,000. Then it jumps up into multiple millions of dollars. My question is, as a professional, how do you keep your head in it? How do you keep your heart in it when you've had the good times and then you've had these fallow years of struggle that you continue to carry on?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I was missing so many cuts. I was Yeah, I was just in a really, really dark cave for that 3 or 4 year stretch where I just nothing was kind of going my way. I was trying to make changes, and when those changes didn't work, I was trying to make other changes, and just kind of going through the Rolodex a little bit, and just when I uh, when I thought I couldn't get any deeper, I just kept on digging even more, and what really changed was I finally went to a coach that really helped me get out, and Sean Foley, and I give him a ton of credit. Um, I started seeing him at the end of 2021, I believe, and he's been a huge reason for me to be able to come back and play as well as I've ever have.
When you were in what you've described as a dark cave, Michael, two questions pop into mind. Were you guilty of identifying your self-worth based upon what you were doing on the golf course, and how hard was it to extract yourself from that? If so, and was there a time when you started to think about what if this isn't my path? Did you think about what else you would do?
I think, you know, basically all professional golfers in some degree, we've been playing tournament golf since we were 8 years old, and or even younger for some, and it's it almost become second nature for us to equate our tournament or golf success with our self-worth. When we do well, we get praised, and when we do poorly, we don't get that praise, and it's just it becomes natural for your brain to think that way. And it's definitely something that I feel like when we turn pro, we realize that's just not a healthy relationship. With golf and in our life. So we try to really separate that from our self-worth from the golf, and it's something I feel like all of us work on a daily and weekly basis. Um, and I'm sorry, what was the second
The
part?
second one would be, did you ever let it sneak into your mind that maybe you wouldn't make it out of this dark cave? Maybe you have to keep going through it and find something else. Did you ever entertain what if you weren't meant to be a touring pro?
For sure. Luckily enough, when I won the John Deere in 2018, that bought me enough time. I had status for 2 or 3 more years. COVID actually extended that status for a year when that decision was made through the tour. And I also had 1 year of Corn Ferry Tour status that I used um, in 21, 22. And if I lost my Corn Ferry Tour status in that 21, 22 season, then I really probably would have really started thinking about what I might do after that. Because if it's because I had at least Corn Ferry Tour status, I wanted to keep pushing. I wanted to still use all the opportunity that I had, and then go from there. I've always felt that I had the game and the potential to be on tour and be successful and play with all these other guys. I just was nowhere near that ceiling that I thought I had, and it's taken a lot of work, but I feel like I'm closer than ever to it. But yeah, I've always felt like I had the game. I just couldn't figure out how to get there.
Is it your nature, Michael, to kind of almost be, and I mean this in a positive way, to be hard headed and stubborn and go, no, I can do this, when indications would be telling you maybe you can't, but you're like, no, I'm going to stick this out, even if it takes years. I'm going to stick this out. Is that who you are?
I think so. I think every one of us on tour, whether it's stupid to think this way. I feel like every one of us feel like we have the potential to win out here. Maybe not win every week. But we all feel like we have the potential. And when I won on the John Deere, when I won at the John Deere, I won by 8, and it didn't feel like I was doing anything. Like I didn't have like an out of body experience with anything, and everything felt right. And because I had that win, and because I felt like I've had times where if I had succeeded out here, it was easier for me to believe. If I had really been struggling on tour for many years before, then I really probably would have thought otherwise. But I think that that win kind of gave me some belief at the true inner core where I felt like I belong out here. I can compete. I just need to get out of this cave and kind of reach my potential a little bit.
It's incredible. I do want to follow up on one thing you said because it piqued my curiosity. You mentioned a number of different things that you did and would do, including fitness and more. But you mentioned books in particular, in plural. If I may, could you share with us what you're talking about there with the books and how they helped you in this very inspiring path?
I think the first book that really changed my perspective was a book called Golf Beneath the Surface by Raymond Pryor. You know, I always thought I had a good mental game from my college, from my professional career, because I didn't show a ton of emotion. I didn't, I was never one to get super mad on the golf course. I tried to keep a positive outlook, even when I wasn't playing well. But I didn't really have a great true process and a way to work through some of the doubts and negativity that is bound to come on the golf course when you're playing tournament golf. And the book is funny. I was at I was at the Mexico Open 2 years ago, and on Tuesday I tweaked my back, and I had nothing to do. And Sean Foley was like, "Hey," he was there that week. He was, "Hey, I if you're not going to practice, you want to read this book I read? I think it's actually good and might help you out." And I said, "Okay, sure." And I read the book, and immediately, maybe not immediately, but that book resonated with me more so than any other, golf mental book, whatever you want to call it, than any book I've had read in the past. And I loved every page of it, and it helped me out a lot.
Stars coming together. Michael Kim is our guest. Are you a Bills fan, Michael?
I am not. One of my best friends from high school is a big Buffalo Bills fan, and it was a rain delay, and so we were doing nothing, and I happened to see Josh Allen there, and so I took a picture with him there to send to my friend. But I am a through and through LA Chargers fan. Growing up in San Diego, they were still in San Diego when I was there, so go Chargers.
When you're around champions, be them of the sporting variety, or maybe it's pro-ams and you're meeting them in big events, are there common traits that you notice in great champions?
It's funny. I think there's like an adage of what you do something is how you do everything, or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
They I've been able to play with Tony Romo even a few times when Dallas at my home course, and they take things. They're so competitive at every little thing. They take things so seriously. Um, Whatever they do, they go 100% full commitment on it, and you can see the amount of focus and passion that they put into just a simple hobby for them. And you can see how they could be so successful in other things with the same amount of focus and passion into their real jobs and real passion of theirs.
Fascinating stuff. Michael, you heard me mention before the break that I was going to ask you about who you are, what your brand is, what your image is, what the message of Michael Kim is to the world.
I think it's a lot of perseverance and a lot of um, a positive outlook on things. I through that roller coaster ride, I never really lost too much hope. I always tried to have a good attitude on the golf course. There's even guys on tour that it's easy to highlight every bad break that they get. But I tried really hard not to be one of those guys. And I would hope that my coworkers, when they play with me, kind of see that way as well. And through those bad 3 or 4 year stretch where I was missing almost every cut and really just playing some really bad golf. I was able to persevere, work hard, and find my footing again, and get back to and play even better than I ever was before.
It's awesome. Do you, by the way, have a deal with sunglasses? Is that a sponsor of yours?
No, I don't know how people play without sunglasses. It can be really bright out there, especially in a bunker. I just always have sunglasses with me. And I'm always in awe of people that don't wear sunglasses on the golf course.
Well, dude, we got to get you a sunglasses gig too, because I mean, you wear them all the time. You're one of those that makes them look cool out on the golf course. Speaking about something cool, your engagement with social media. Hey, I've got a few hours in the airport. Ask me any questions that you want. And you can kind of see this collage that Andrew and Don put together. When did this start? Why did you do it? And has it changed you and your persona at the very least in terms of what it means in social media?
I think it all started when I got back on tour that second time. I played with Max Homa, who's an awesome friend of mine. We went to Cal together, and he obviously is Mr. X or Mr. Twitter, way before I was. Just how much his brand had grown, and just how many people came to actually watch him. Our careers, in a weird way, have gone different directions at all times. When he was playing well, I was playing bad, and when I was playing well, he was playing bad. And so I never saw his brand progressively grow. I just, he's just my friend Max Homa, and when I played with him at the what was then the Safeway Open, um, you know, a ton. His brand had grown so much, and in the back of my mind, I always thought, um, if I wanted to do something on social media, I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to post the weekly photo of the spot we're at and just say, hey, let's have a good week at so and so. And I decided to do it on X or Twitter instead of Instagram. I actually deleted my Instagram. Um, and through my ups and downs, I felt like I learned a lot about golf, about the golf swing, and I felt like that was a way for me to just start trying to grow the brand a little bit. I didn't know what would happen. No one might like it, but I decided to do for a full year. I decided, other than tournament days, I was just going to post something almost every day, and it's grown a decent bit, even more than I could have thought or wanted. And now I get some shout outs out there on the golf course, which is great. I used to be mistaken for other players more often than get a personal shout out. So it's been awesome to see that people have liked my stuff, and I'll continue to do it for this foreseeable future.
Because you are so honest about all this stuff, like there was one that I saw that you put your travel expenses nearly $100,000 a year with that. Just stuff on the inside that people love to know and wouldn't know. Yeah, to the penny, $92,698.11 for travel. You are now ascending. You're evolving from a journeyman professional to being amongst the elite. So now making that transition as the tour is going to special opportunities, signature events for the best of the best. How do you feel about the direction that the PGA Tour is going? It is now going to benefit you more than it would have only a few months ago. But where's your mind at with that?
It's there's it's I feel like it's a bit of a double-edged sword in a way. There's positives and negatives to it. Um, just a few years back, I wasn't making any cuts. I was, barely hanging on to my PGA Tour status, and now that I'm playing better, it's especially this year, I probably won't have to worry about that nearly as much. But at the same time, um, it's I think anyone in that's been in my spot is kind of thinking like, is it really necessary? Is this really help the tour? Does it help the bottom line with a tour that much? Cutting away opportunities. Um, I'm certainly not smart enough to make all these decisions. But time will tell. But I think many guys on the PGA Tour are pessimistic about the direction that the tour is going, mainly because they feel their job is some of their jobs are might be taken away. But at the same time, the guys that are playing well are making more money than ever before. So on tour, it's if if you're good enough, you will make plenty of money, have plenty of success. Well, I'm of the belief that we'll see what happens, and it's always easy to add jobs in the future if they feel like they overdid the cut. So we'll have to see. Everyone kind of have their everyone has their doubts about it, but we'll see.
Michael, you strike me as a person that has a light that emanates from within them. Right now, with everything that's going on in your life, where would you put your happiness on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the most?
Right now, it's definitely at least an eight or nine. Luckily for me, I had even when I was playing poorly, I had awesome friends and family that supported me and believed in me way before, way more than even than I thought I could achieve, and they were incredibly supportive, and I tried to keep that in mind, even as poorly as my professional life was how bad that was going. And I found myself incredibly grateful, and of the golf that I'm playing right now, I am even more grateful than I would have when I first got on tour.
It kind of, I would think then will give us a perfect place to end this, Michael, if you would allow. Your story is inspirational, and you're on a stage that reaches millions of people, and I've no doubt that you've made a lot more fans here today. My question is, can you look into the camera like you were looking into someone's eyes, and they're struggling? They're in the dark cave of their life. What can you say to that individual to continue in their pursuit of their dreams and having the self-belief that they are good enough to do it?
I think, the biggest part is if you have good people around you, if you have people that believe in you and you work at it, life is certainly unfair at times, but the good bounces and the opportunities always show up. And if you have worked hard enough, if you've committed to it, you know, anyone can grab those opportunities and use it as a springboard to get out of the cave that many can find themselves in, like I was. And it's, you know, in a lot of ways, life has life works in many different ways and in many different timings as well. And I'm always of the belief, if you have good people, if you work hard enough, you can find the light at the end of every tunnel. And I have found a much better and happier perspective after all the downturns at the end of it all.
Amazing. Love the perspective, love the inspiration that you provide. I actually think you might have a book in all this, emerging from the dark cave. You can have Sean. Sean's a friend of mine. You can have Shawnee write the intro. I think it might be half the book.
Yeah, he certainly does not need help writing anything down or talking to anyone.
It was great to have you on the show. We wish you the very, very best.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you later on. Folks, thank you so much for your company as well. That's why we do this. That's why we started this show back in 2006, to give you the opportunity to get to know these players, not only as the heroes that you see week in and week out, but also as human beings, and to realize that they suffer from the same things that we all do: hopes and dreams and ambitions, and having to have the belief and having to have the tenacity to get themselves out of their own dark caves, and on the other side, bathing in the bright sun.